world of technology. We're always connected. Everything is based on technology. What do you do when your technology breaks down? You call Digital Solutions. Located on Wesley Street in Greenville, Digital Solutions Technology Partners is there to get you fixed up. From business support to home computer repair, Digital Solutions Technology Partners will get your tech issues resolved. Visit us online at www.techresolve.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/DSTPI. You can call our office at 903-259-6418. We live in a world of technology. We're always connected. Everything is based on technology. What do you do when your technology breaks down? You call Digital Solutions. Located on Wesley Street in Greenville, Digital Solutions Technology Partners is there to get you fixed up. From business support to home computer repair, Digital Solutions Technology Partners will get your tech issues resolved. Visit us online at www.techresolve.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/DSTPI. You can call our office at 903-259-6418. We live in a world of technology. We're always connected. Everything is based on technology. What do you do when your technology breaks down? You call Digital Solutions. Located on Wesley Street in Greenville, Digital Solutions Technology Partners is there to get you fixed up. From business support to home computer repair, Digital Solutions Technology Partners will get your tech issues resolved. Visit us online at www.techresolve.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/DSTPI. You can call our office at 903-259-6418.
Good job, folks. Stretch, spirit, stretch.
Don't want to run cameras this way.
I think we're close enough. All right, it's 6 o'clock on July 25th, and I'll call the regular session of the City Council to order. Let the record reflect that all council members are present. Reverend Ron Height from Cornerstone Community Church will give us the invocation, and I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remove any hat gear during that time, and be sure your phones are turned off. Thank you.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this another beautiful day that you've given to us and an opportunity to be able to gather together to do business in our community. We ask, Heavenly Father, that you would be with each and every one that is here to make the decisions, that you would grant them wisdom beyond their own ability, that you would be with the citizens as well and help them to know that the things that are being done throughout this community are to help for the betterment of all who are concerned. So just help everybody, Heavenly Father, to know that you are with them, that they are not alone, and that you can help them throughout this process, no matter what it may be. For we ask this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is we've got a couple of presentations to give. Reagan Olson. Come on up. I have a proclamation here. We, the mayor and the city council of the city of Greenville, Texas, do hereby honor Reagan Olson. She was recently honored as 2017 Star of the American Ambulance Association. She served the Greenville community by participating in drug-free Greenville, has taught several thousand children hands-on CPR, hands-on only CPR, with the Keep the Beat program, and has participated in the Bras for the Cause. And most notably, with her CPR training, she recently saved the life of a local pastor after the reaction to a bee sting, which then transpired into Regan teaching the hands-only CPR class to church members. Therefore, we recognize today the many contributions Reagan Olson has made for the citizens of this community and applaud her faithful service. In testimony whereof witnessed my hand this 25th day of July. David Dryling, Mayor. You think I got one for you? Or you just trolling? Okay.
I'm Melvin.
You better be Cindy.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We, the mayor and the city council of the city of Greenville, Texas, do hereby honor Cindy Hitchcock. Cindy was recently honored as a 2017 Star of American Ambulance Association. Both of them were, and there's very few people that are selected in this, isn't that correct?
Correct. 107 were at this 2017 awards banquet from all over the United States, Spain, and Trinidad for the American Ambulance Association.
So for both of you, that's an excellent job, and it really says well. Cindy was recognized by DPS Trooper Goodwin for her quick reaction in securing and installing 3 car seats at a traffic stop on I-30. I need you to come over and see my grandkids. For a mother and 3 children fleeing from an abusive relationship. She has served as vice president, and current board member for the Drug-Free Greenville, as well as teaching free monthly community CPR classes. Whereas Cindy has coordinated bike rodeos and the collection of over 12,000 pounds of food to fill the box, which benefits Hunt County Shared Ministry. We recognize today in the many contributions Cindy Hitchcock has made for the citizens of this community and applaud her faithful service. In testimony whereof, witness my hand this 25th day of July. David Dreiling, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is citizens to be heard. Citizens are invited to address the council on topics not already scheduled for a public hearing. If you haven't already, please complete a comment card and present it to the city secretary. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and should conduct themselves in a civil manner. The city council cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act. Concerns will be addressed by the city staff. They may be placed on future agenda or addressed by some other course of response. Carol, do we have any cards?
Ashley Flint.
Ashley
Flint.
Flint. And when you come up, please give your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Ashley Flint, and I am employed with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, and we're located at Stonewall, 2500 Stonewall. And I'm actually coming to address the council as a caseworker for needy families, but also as a student. I am a student in the master's program with Texas A&M Commerce, and I currently provide services for families that are struggling with a variety of issues, everything from poverty, indigent circumstances, underemployment, substance abuse, mental health, physical health issues, and things of that nature. And I've worked in the field for 4 years, actually 4 years this July. And I grew up in this community, and I know a lot of these people that I serve. And one of the reoccurring problems that I have is, or that my families have rather, that poses an obstacle for me to be able to help them, is that oftentimes they're experiencing isolation and have extremely limited access to resources in the community. Recently, we've had a lot of new businesses come to Greenville. We've had a lot of economic growth, and we have a lot of new job opportunities, and a lot of my families that I serve are really eager to participate in those different kind of employment opportunities, but I'm finding that transportation specifically is a huge issue and a huge obstacle. Right now in Greenville, the only two services that I kind of have to refer my families to are the taxi cab service, On the Go, and the Connection. The reason why these are not sustainable services is because the on-the-go taxi service is very costly and very expensive for one-way trips. And Connection is not very reliable. They require that you call 24 hours in advance. It's not sustainable if you're needing a ride to work and things of that nature. They don't keep a very tight schedule, so oftentimes they can't depend on it for making appointments, whether it be with their counselors, whether it be with their healthcare professional, whether it be getting their kids to daycare so that they can make it to work on time and things of that nature. And I really just wanted to address the council to request that there be some effort or some thought into developing Greenville in a direction that's going towards a public transportation system that can serve the most vulnerable. Right now, 23.1% of the children in Greenville specifically are living in poverty. 16% of adults just in general. And I really do believe that having access to transportation, having access to a means to be able to find employment and not just be employed, but be able to meet all their financial responsibilities would really help minimize those numbers. And I would be able to help the families that I find on my caseload on a daily basis.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol, anybody else?
Carrie McCreary.
Carrie?
Hi again. So I am on the advisory board of the shelter, so I wanted to touch on that really quickly. There's been a lot of awesome changes with the shelter in the past 6 months that we've all been super excited about. But it's a simple formula. I mean, Mr. Turner asked, how do we decrease the number of euthanasias at the shelter? Well, we've got to have more animals going in, going out, and less coming in, right? Less coming in means we as a city have got to support spaying and neutering and promote that, and that we also need to help those animals get adopted. One of the ways that we talked about doing that is to increase hours that the shelter is open, or change those hours to be more amenable to citizens. There's tons of other cities that are just like ours, even with smaller populations, that have changed their hours to have even 4 hours on a Saturday that are open. We also asked about supplying volunteers for that and just having one city employee there to handle the financial aspect of that, because that was brought up to us that they have got to handle funds, which is totally understood. So really, I'm not going to get to the scope of everything in 3 minutes, but I'm excited that you guys talked about it today. I'm excited about those changes that have been made, but there's so many more things that can be done, even from a financial aspect, that don't necessarily cost the shelter money. And it's like Ms. Gocher said, we've got to drop all the walls of the negativity between different people in the community just for the sake of the animals. Everyone's got to just get over themselves so that we can work together and make it better for the animals. Okay, so I hope that you guys invite me back to talk sometime, and that we can cover this in detail later. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Julie Bell.
Julie?
Hello, I'm Julie Bell, and I'm at 4144 County Road 3323 in Greenville. I've lived here for about 1.5 years now, and yes, I was one of the emails that you all received a few months ago, actually now. Talking a little bit about how somebody moving in perceives the city anytime you move somewhere different. I moved from the Allen area. Just let me go down with it. Sorry, a little short. And I started working with Hunt County Pets Alive, and I still volunteer with them. And we were volunteering with the shelter and trying to help with some of the changes. And like Dr. McCreary said, we've seen a lot of positive things happen. I think what's happened with the volunteers, though, and what happened with me, was the feeling that, you know, somehow we weren't really welcome to volunteer. And maybe it was just that lack of knowing, you know, what everybody's, you know, purpose was, and how we were, like they were talking earlier, kind of getting a plan set. But there was, you know, everybody's wanting to work towards helping the animals and try to get them adopted out, and we have had a lot more adoptions. But we have definitely lost some of our volunteers, and most of the volunteers were Hunt County Pets Alive volunteers. And just, you know, just from negative comments, or just the attitude of, you know, here you are, you know, like we really weren't welcome if they didn't want us there. And I'm not sure why that is. I mean, in other cities, and I know that a lot of people say don't compare to another city because the budgets are different and things like that. But this had nothing to do with the budget. I mean, this is just working together with your volunteers and your rescue groups, you know, to try to be all doing the same thing, helping these animals get out of the shelter. Because we understand that there's going to be euthanasia, there's going to be aggressive animals, there's going to be sick animals. But when we see perfectly healthy animals that are adoptable, having to be euthanized, that's just, it shouldn't be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. But the underlying problem is, and that we don't have better laws, I think, down in the southern states for whatever reason. People can stick their dogs out on a chain, well, not in the city limits, but you can still see that outside Greenville and areas, and they're not getting their animals spayed and neutered. And then they come in and they dump them. They dump them pregnant, and then the rescues try to take them. Right now, we can't even take any more because our funds are low. We have to vet all these animals, and then we still can't get them adopted out sometimes because there's such an overpopulation. We actually have moved a lot of the dogs from the shelter. We've pulled so many this past year because we started transporting up into the northern states. That's kind of a new thing. Well, the reason is they, for some reason, have really strict spay and neuter laws. They're making it possible. Maybe there's a different mentality of the people that the animals are. Is my time up?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. But anyway, the whole deal is that, that if we can have some kind of spay and neuter thing going on, that would help this overpopulation, because they're doing it somehow up north and they actually welcome our dogs. So.
Just as a point of interest there, with the problems that we've had with the attitudes of the volunteers and stuff, our HR director, Janice, has gone out and done extensive training. So the city is working hard to try and get that resolved so that they've got a more positive attitude. But as you probably heard at the earlier session, is to get the volunteers to show up that are willing to participate. So it's an ongoing thing, two ways.
Right, and it is. And I think though that, because I signed a form earlier in the year when I first moved here, and then they came out with a new form, but I never signed that new form, and so then I wasn't contacted about, continued volunteering. So I think there's a lot more volunteers out there.
We just have to get them signed up.
Have to get them back signed up.
All right, thank you.
Michelle Lee Baker.
Michelle?
I'm Michelle Lee Baker at 5110 Utah. I think the main thing that I wanted to talk about tonight is the board meetings. We had my first board meeting as a member of the Animal Advisory Board. I was very impressed. Everyone was enthusiastic and anxious to help. We set our next meeting at a time when these professional people were able to come, and the city decided that we didn't need to meet that often and that we didn't need to meet on the date that we chose when all of those people were available. And I realize that I'm familiar with the Goose Board, and I assure you, we don't always want to meet on the days that the Goose Board wanted to, but we met anyway. I don't understand why the employees get to set the date of the board meeting, and if you've got an enthusiastic group that could work to get your volunteers together and to possibly look at fundraising or whatever, and you won't even sanction the meetings, that's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Weeks.
Mayor and Council, I want to talk to you tonight about the Texas Chapter 380 agreement that y'all discussed at your last council meeting.
Give your name and address, please.
Jason Weeks, 6305 Villa Fontana. The developer was to construct at the minimum of $5 million improvements to Splash Kingdom. And upon that, the city would rebate annually to the developer for 20 years up to $1.75 million of sales tax revenue. 3 points I want to make. At your last council meeting, it was stated the developer had met the construction requirements by spending approximately $7.1 million in improvements. The details of those total disbursements was provided to you on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Everyone in this room, including you, Mr. Mayor, and the council, you're required to file an annual IRS form for your annual tax return. You enter the amounts on the lines for revenues, deductions, possible credits. If the IRS doesn't believe that you have falsely recorded any of these, who's responsible for validating those amounts? This is no different than the developer of Splash Kingdom. This developer needs to be held accountable for all $7.1 million of expenses provided to you on that 8.5 11 piece of paper. This includes timesheets, invoices, canceled checks, bank statements, whatever it takes to validate the required minimum $5 million in improvements. They can't provide that documentation. It's a breach of agreement. The taxpayers shouldn't be held accountable to pay a forensic auditor. And I understand, I wouldn't pay $50,000 to $100,000 for an auditor. There's no need for the city to have to do that. The accountability rests and the responsibility rests with the developer. Point 2, as mentioned in the previous council meeting, there was an issue of the taxable value established by our appraisal district. Unfortunately, our appraisal district has appraised Splash Kingdom improvements taxable value at $874,000. Compare that to Splash Kingdom improvements taxable values at Nacogdoches, which is The next, I guess, newest one, 3.5 million. Weatherford, 3.3 million. Canton, which is the oldest one, at 2.9. There is clear inconsistency in those taxable improvements, especially given that Greenville is the newest location and on I-30. I would recommend that all of the taxing entities need to be discussing this taxable value with the appraisal district, especially the school district. The school district has the largest portion here of loss. Point 3, have you any thought about the financial impact of this discussion? The city does if the city does nothing and allows a taxable value to remain $874,000 instead of the $5 million, that equates to $600 or $6,107 annually, or accumulated $122,000 over 20 years, compared to $87,500 annually in sales tax, or accumulated $1.7 million over 20 years. The city has received a great quality of life amenity, which employs minimum wage seasonal staff at a cost to the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Jonathan Rocky.
Jonathan?
Well, I'm Jonathan Rocky. I am at 5900 Jack Finney. I have a veteran clinic there, and I'm also on the advisory board. I'd like to bring to the council, as far as the advisory board, we've had discussions of increasing the amount of meetings that we have to solve some of the issues that have come up with the board. And unfortunately, those have been declined, or we can't, for some reason, not make those meetings. And so I think some of the issues that we're having, if we can change some of those rules as far as the minimum amount of meetings to have, most of the individuals on the board are willing to have those meetings so we can solve some of the issues that have come forward. The second disconnect I think that we're having, at least on the advisory board, that we've made some recommendations as far as the flooring, as far as the disinfectant for some of those sick animals that are being euthanized. One, for instance, was epoxy-based flooring. And we went through a great discussion as far as making those changes. And at the end, we felt like that the flooring was, I guess, sanded, but there was no epoxy flooring on there. So the city has paid for funds, but we still have the same contamination rate. We still have the same lack of disinfection for these animals. So there's some disconnect on what the advisory board is recommending, and then the follow through on what is actually being done in reference to those recommendations.
I'm under the impression that the area where the dogs are has been recovered and has been redone. Last time I was out there, they showed me the evidence, so I'm not
So
sure.
absolutely. So the flooring has been resurfaced, and then evidently a coating put on there, at least in our a lot of the shelter environments, it's an epoxy-based coating that's put on there that's impervious to solids and those liquids going through. And then, with disinfection and squeegeing of the fluids out of the kennel or the runs, it becomes a dry-based area. And so even though it's surfaced, we still have some disinfectant-based issues. So there's not an epoxy coating on the floor, it was more of a sealant. And so that's where
concrete.
Right, a sealer of the concrete. And so our recommendation was for an epoxy-based long-term solution. The sealer unfortunately has to be reapplied, and then there's some negativity to that sealant as far as are we providing long-term disinfectant to that area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chance Blanton.
Chance?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council members. My speech is more one of compassion for the animals of Hunt County. And I wasn't planning on speaking. I was here as just a bystander. But again, I speak to you in compassion. I feel like there's not enough fundraising for the animals here, that possibly there is a disconnect between city and the actual volunteers, the actual members that help, that are in the lives of these animals every single day. And I say that because businesses could be sponsoring care for these animals. That's just an idea. Or family members or families could sponsor animals. There could be a ton of fundraising and marketing if there wasn't, I feel like, a disconnect or a stigma. So my question is, how do we get around that? There's been a lot of discussions on what we can do to help them, but where's the follow through? We understand that it's an issue, that if these were humans, if these were people, I worked in hospice for 7 years. If these were people, this wouldn't be an issue. So is it because they're animals? Is it because it's the law here, that they're just property, that their lives don't matter? Where's the compassion? Is it budgetary? Is that what we're basing this on? Because how do you put an amount on a life? Whether it's a person or an animal, how do you put a dollar amount on that? If you couldn't afford to take care of your pet, would you want it euthanized? I wouldn't. I would want the place that I live, and I work at Lakes Regional. I work with helping people every single day with resources that our county provides. So I know that it can be done. We can pull together as a city and get resources to help people keep their animals so that they're not bringing them in the shelter because they can't afford their flea medicine, or they can't afford their medication, or to spay and neuter them, or they can't afford dog food. But we have to make that a priority. Just like we did when there was a huge, high homeless population here. We gave them resources. We helped them. We helped them find somewhere to go, or to better their circumstances. I know money is money, and I know that this isn't something that's brought about every single day, and that it's easy to forget that there are animals dying. But remember that these could be your pets. Remember that this is a thing, a living thing, dying every single day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joyce Drawling.
Joyce Dryling, 6404 Buena Vista Drive. Know there's an issue with wrong way drivers. I was in the middle of something earlier today. Parking lots I know are bad. Roads are bad. People decide to go the frontage road and take a left turn on the east side instead of going where property owners have already made access from one property to another. Don't know how to stop it. I've seen it on Stonewall Street on the bridge before the 4th of July. Cop went following a car and made them turn around before they got downtown. I've seen it on Johnson Street. I've seen people on Stonewall, where Kavanaugh Methodist Church is, go up to O'Neill Street. They're going the wrong way. Just today, and I called the company earlier today to let them know. Whether they take action or not, time will tell. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. We have one for a public hearing. We have one for a public hearing.
One for public hearing.
No, I had card up there, Carol.
Says, oh, this public hearing, not a public hearing public.
No,
No,
this is,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Wayne May 5 Heritage. I'd just like to reiterate on the Chapter 380. We are, at this point in time, we are making sure that the public sector side of the agreement is being fulfilled. And we are not shoring up the private sector side of that agreement to be sure they've met that requirement in order to receive that $1.75 million. I find it interesting that some of the council members do not see that very important, but $1.75 million is $1.75 million, ever how you want to look at it. My what I would like to see the council do is to instruct the city manager to be sure that we got a forensic audit, to be sure that the private sector, that agreement has been met before we pay out any more money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Carol? Anybody else you're hiding? Anybody else wish to speak that has not filled out a card? Okay, at this point then I'll close that citizens to be heard. We'll move on to the consent calendar.
City Council meeting minutes from July 11th. Ordinance authorizing the unit price construction contract with Best Built Fencing of Oklahoma for the awarding of the Greenville Wastewater Reclamation Center Security Fence Project 2017.
Anybody have any questions or corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as submitted.
Move for approval.
Okay, Brett, do I have a second? John, please vote. And it's 7-0. Thank you. Okay, next is item 7A, public hearing. Consideration and action on an ordinance for a change in zoning from multifamily to office zoning on the front 180 feet frontage located on the lot on 803 Traders Road.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Council. This request is from Bud Jones, William Jones. If you guys remember, I believe 3 months ago, Mr. Jones requested a multifamily zoning on this piece of property. It's on your screen now. His plan was to build single-story townhomes on it. Actually, I don't think I have that picture. That's the current, but originally he was going to build townhomes there. You can see the piece of property traders to your top. The townhomes are at the bottom along the sides, and then up front you'll see 2 offices. Those were originally going to be townhomes built up there. Mr. Jones has come back, rethought this proposition, and is asking that the front 180 foot from traders be rezoned to office. Y'all did do the zoning for multifamily so they could build the townhomes in there. He since thought about building the office buildings on the front. Obviously, they'd have to replat. The 2 buildings you see are towards the top. This is a rendition of something he's planning on building. You'd have one of these buildings on each side of a public access easement. It'd be brick with an Austin-looking stone, 10-12, 12-12 pitch roof, which would somewhat match the townhomes that he plans to build there. The main concern that I have here, this property was originally zoned agriculture. If you'll remember back at that meeting, I told you that the comprehensive master plan called for all this area to be low-density single-family. We went ahead and went with the townhomes because they are single-family type homes. My concern here is that if we change the zoning on this front piece of property to office, that we're going to kind of open the door up and would probably change the scheme of the whole master plan up and down the street. While we do have commercial down towards the Walmart end of traders, as you progress towards Roy Warren, we change over into master plan calling for single family. So I would caution you about if you want to grant this zoning that you may be setting a precedence for things to happen in the future. I took this matter to planning and zoning last week. And they denied the request to recommend denial for you guys by a vote of 3-2 and 1 abstention. But that was a recommendation. We sent letters out. We didn't get any response back, neither for or against. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So the original plan was to put in how many townhouses?
I believe he was going to do 34. There would be another section where you see the offices there now that would extend towards traders on either side. I don't have that particular drawing here, but.
And if the offices are approved, that reduces that by how much?
I believe you're going to take out about 12 units, something like that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Something like that. I believe it would remove 12, and then you'd have 4. each office building would hold 4 different offices in each one of them, so you could potentially have 8 offices there. We're strictly talking office zoning here, not general retail or anything like that.
If an office zoning is approved, what limit what can go in there? Is there anything?
Strictly office, it couldn't be any kind of retail.
Could it be a tattoo office?
No, sir. No, that has a whole different type of conditional use permit required for this. No, it pretty much doctor's office, insurance office, that's pretty much it in office zoning.
Anybody have any questions for?
What's the concern that you were saying?
My concern is if you change it to office, then the properties to either side of that are zoned agricultural right now. Master plan calls for those to be single family also. I think if you do that, then you're gonna open the door up to, you could presumably have office if you grant office, and I would think somebody would probably ask for general retail next. So it's a consideration you have to take in. If you remember back in the day, across traders, we had a plat at one time called Riata Trails. I don't know if y'all remember that or not. It was a pretty extensive piece of property, and anyway, that didn't pan out, and we eventually vacated that plat. That property has recently come back up for sale, and there's a lot of interest in it again. And I would surmise to build single-family homes in there. So I think it's something we need to consider. Is that, and guys, we're talking to them all the time about building new subdivisions. I'll be bringing you one next month, as a matter of fact. But you need to think about, is that what we want to see along traders, or do we want to continue on building with the single-family homes? My other concern is traders can be pretty busy. If we build subdivision, most of them going to have 1 or 2 streets going into them, as opposed to if we start zoning along traders, you could have a driveway every time you turn around, and I can see accidents. Those kind of issues there.
Isn't office pretty low impact though?
It is. It is.
What about up, I guess, Roy Warren, if you head north? What is the zoning there?
Roy Warren itself, heading north.
Yeah, isn't there some?
There's some multifamily to the west, and then most of your property that runs down along Roy Warren to the east is a single family or ag.
Would this be kind of like that over on Jack Finney, where there's the Remax and the dance studio and that kind of thing?
Could be something like that.
But
Yeah.
then there's a single family subdivision.
Cottonwood, yes, which we're building in that now.
Right there by the fire department.
Right.
Any other questions for Steve? Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
At this point, I'll open it up as a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this, please step forward.
I'm William Jones. I live at 8322 Kiowa here in Greenville currently. I purchased a piece of property. I'm the one with the proposal. Purchased a piece of property last February. It was zoned agriculture, much like that, surrounding it. Came before the P&Z board, ultimately City Council, with a proposal of multifamily. As I'm sure you're familiar with or somewhat acquainted with, while things are in the planning phase, and that's certainly where we are, planning phase, development phase, things remain fluid, things are subject to change. That's kind of where we are. I know that there are other townhomes that are being permitted even now that will be online before my townhomes are online, operable. When I stood before you a couple, 3 months ago when we were talking about this, we were talking about doing it in several phases, not just 38 units at one time. We were talking about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. You can understand that. So what I'm looking at here, and what I'm asking and requesting is the frontage, which is approximately 350 feet, back onto the property 180 feet, be rezoned office, so that, again, I would still maintain approximately 25 or so units, I don't know exactly, but of multifamily, as earlier discussed, but the frontage would be changed to office. We have a couple of different structures there with about 4 units in each. It would be limited to things like, real estate, insurance, tax purposes or whatever. We're not talking food service or anything like that. If you look in the neighborhood around, you can see what you can see this setup in lots of different places around Greenville, even in areas that are 5 years, 4 years old. Right there close to this subject piece of property, you will find the Remax with Cottonwood right behind it. You go right down the street, you have the latest donut shop in Greenville positioned on a corner next to residential housing. I'm not saying it's the optimal thing, but it happens. You permitted it. We have the newest car wash in Greenville right there near the subject piece of property that is adjacent to housing. Okay, so all I'm saying is that what is being requested is not unmerited. It's not even unprecedented. You see it all around. But again, that's what I'm proposing. The front 180 feet across the front, the office, maintain the multifamily in the back. We access the multifamily with a right-of-way. Mr. Methvin's quite clear that the city doesn't want a street, but it would be a right-of-way that would accommodate fire trucks, et cetera, parallel parking, whatever. So, if you have any questions, glad to answer your question.
4 months ago, you came in and asked for it to be zoned from agricultural to multifamily because you were dead set that you were going to build these townhomes. Now you come to us 4 months later and say, well, really, I'm not going to do that here. I want to put these office things in. But I just find it strange that what was hard and fast, that this is what you wanted to do 4 months ago, now you want to change it. I'm not comfortable that even those townhomes would be built, because now you build the offices and next thing you come back and say, hey, I've got offices here, I want to add more offices, which you may or may not do. But I think it's just setting it bothers me that you're doing that. Any questions for?
How far are you from the new storage buildings that are being built on Traders Road?
I would say I'm probably half a mile. The new storage facilities down there at Walmart, I guess be on the west end, and I'm more on the east end, down toward Cedar Creek, almost to 1570 Jack Finney. So I would guess maybe a half mile stretch.
Yeah. Cedar Creek stuff. I just couldn't remember how far they are from those storage buildings, and then what's to happen with the house there, the blue house that was at one time owned by Mr. Anderson, and prior to that Miss Smith.
Excuse me?
Do you know what's happening to that blue house? I know somebody's bought that. What's going on with that blue house? Right by the government. Down by those, we're talking about precedent, so I'm wondering, we have storage buildings down on the west end, and then there's a blue house that's been built. Does anybody know what's going on with that blue house?
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like they're redoing the roof on, putting a metal roof or on or off, but some sort of remodel project. I don't know. I've seen it, but I'm not associated with it, so I don't know. Doesn't look like it's going anywhere. It looks like they're improving it. I don't know.
And what is your timeline as far as the buildings,
Well,
office buildings, and then the townhomes?
Well, again, in touching on what Mr. Drayling, the mayor, said, you know, as far as townhomes go, I mean, I could move on it within 6 months, or I could move on office buildings within 6 months. We've done all the demo necessary. We've removed all the trees, removed the structure that was there, several little buildings, the house, whatever. You can drive by, take a look at it. You know what I'm talking about.
I know
So,
right where you're talking
yeah,
about.
it's
Little houses at one time that looked like little duplex, little white houses.
yeah. I think there was one of them was this brick structure, but there was an older one that was removed some time ago. But I mean, it's a clean, slick piece of property at this point, so we're ready to start moving forward, doing all the demo that we need to do. But the infrastructure is needing to go in whatever we do, whether it be townhomes or whether it be office space up front and townhomes in the back. But again, I'm just one player out there. I know that there are other guys out there that are going to have, I know of one other guy that is going to have being permitted for townhomes as I speak. Okay, and so.
Where is he located?
Where he's located? Probably a half a mile from where I'm located. Okay, so I know he's coming online with 8 additional units, 8, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the townhome circles, it's a niche market, so it may be all the market can absorb. All right, so if I come on with 12, say, then that makes 20, and I'm not sure that's really what I want to do. I didn't purchase the piece of property at the pause button, but I have to consider, hey, do I really want to bring 12 units on at the same time somebody else is coming on, or do I have another option? What direction do I want to go? And so I have to take a close hard look at it. So that's why I'm here making this proposal here. It's not necessarily to say, I don't think I want to do that anymore. It's just that, like I said, and I know all of you understand that what we're talking about here is in the planning phase, and things remain fluid. They don't always end up looking like what you initially thought. But as long as the piece of property is in production, performing, that's the main objective. And what that performance exactly looks like, it could be different than what you initially purpose. But so that's where we are. We can do townhomes, but it's just I'm not sure there's proper timing. They're just elements that are out of my control, just like they're elements out of your control. And as things move, you want to make sure you have the right fit going forward. And so I'm trying to get what I consider to be a good fit. So that's why I'm proposing office space.
So you're saying you'd like to do the office space at the front, and you're not sure when you might do the townhomes?
Well,
is that sort of a summary?
Or if.
Or if.
Say again?
You said.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put, but I thought you said you looked at this and you're not sure what you might have to do in the future. Did I misunderstand what you said?
No, well, maybe, I'm not sure. All I'm saying is, I don't want to necessarily hit the pause button, but if I'm forced to do townhomes only and office is not granted, then I might hit the pause button, because I don't want to make an investment at the wrong timing when the market's not what I feel to be ready, or where my investment can be absorbed and will produce like it needs to. So, but if it's office space, then again, that's different. But whatever I do, whether it be townhomes or whether it be office and townhomes, it's not all going to happen now, within a year or 2 years even. It's going to happen incrementally. And if it's townhomes, it'll be incrementally, like 1, 2, and 3 over a course of a number of years. If it's office space and townhomes, then it'll be office space initially, followed by townhomes sometime after that. But it's not, the whole project is not going to happen in 3 years. But we're at a starting point. And so the direction that we're going has to be established and set. And yes, I initially did think that we were going to do townhomes, but I've only invested. I've acquired the piece of property, I've done the demo, and now I want to move forward. But I want to make sure I'm moving forward in the proper, correct direction. And so I'm walking slowly. I've spent 45, 60 days a few extra dollars, drawing this stuff up, going before P&Z, coming before the city council. I've got the time, if that's what it takes to get it right. But, you know, I'm not gonna go out there and just, you know, try to make something happen and, you know, feel like later, you know, I shouldn't have done that. You know, it wasn't a good time, bad decision, wrong direction or whatever. So I don't feel like I've wasted the last 45 days, 60 days. But I guess it'll be decided tonight.
Anybody else?
I mean, what direction I'm going will be decided tonight. That's what I'm saying.
I actually, I wish this proposal had been brought back in March. I prefer this because it's lower impact, I think, than the multifamily. I think, you know, as far as traffic, office buildings have traffic at different times usually than traffic to residential. A lot of more progressive cities that are really paying attention to city planning are doing more mixed-use developments because you have people who can live close to where they work. It cuts down on traffic as opposed to having everybody live over here and everybody work over there. So I mean, I understand the mayor's concern with, hey, it's only been a few months since, you know, and we're already changing course, and that's concerning, and I understand that. But, you know, knowing Mr. Jones, I don't think you're a fickle man. I think it just happened, it just so happened that way like this. But I prefer this to having a piece of property there that's multifamily that Mr. Jones currently thinks is townhomes. But if it doesn't become townhomes because the market doesn't support it or whatever, somebody could put a 3-story apartment complex there, which I think is a lot worse than what he's proposing. So like I said, I wish that this had been the initial proposal, and I understand the concern about people who think it's a change, but I like it.
Any other questions?
I would like to go into executive session for a few minutes to discuss this.
Okay.
But we need to finish the public hearing first.
Yes, okay. Before we vote, you want public hearing, or you want
Yes, sir.
executive session? All right. Anybody else wish to speak in favor?
My name is Larry Ellis. I live at 131 Cherokee Street, and I'm here to support my neighbor Bud. I think Bud's a hardworking man. I think what he's suggesting to do, I think is reasonable. I think it's unrealistic for us to think that on Traders that it's just going to be single family backing up to Traders Road. You know, that's unrealistic. The traffic flow there now and the car noise, you know, it's already increasing, and people aren't going to want to have their homes just backed up to Traders Road there. What's logical is that we do have some homes. I think my family will build them. If we do have some homes behind this on the tract of land I own, but then out front, let's have Bud's offices. Let's have the townhomes in there, and he'll build them out as we see that we have a need. We have a need for housing in this town. There are people contacting us from out of state all the time, and they're wanting to know where they would live here. And so if he's going to put the offices up there, good, that gives us a place for a dentist, a pediatrician. We have a lot of young families out there. We need some office space like that. And then also, we need those townhomes. And yes, we're also going to need a little bit more retail up there. I own the 24-acre to the tract to the east of Bud. I own a 1-acre tract around the corner on Roy Warren. I own 33 acres, a half mile behind him. So my family has an interest there. But we both, Bud and my family, we're putting our money on the line. This is a monopoly. You know, this is our money. For Bud to put a street in, for me to put a street in, we dropped $600 grand. The engineering to get to here, to go see Steve, to go to a pre-app meeting, to start putting all this together, let's spend $20,000. It's not monopoly. It's the real thing that we're doing. But I'm here because I've watched Bud in 100-degree days out working, and I admire him for who he is and what he does. And I think that if Bud does it, we'll have something that'll look good, and Bud will do a good job with it. And I understand that this maybe didn't get presented the right way the first go-round and everything, but guess what? We're here with y'all. You're our neighbors. We all live here together, and we can fix this. We can fix it right now. We can all make it happen. And Bud will go out there and build the offices, and other people like me will come along, and we'll put other houses up and other retail. And Traders Road, it's going to be a pretty important little stretch for our community. You know, just be out there in the evenings. You know, you'll see 2,000 cars going up and down Traders between 4 and 6:30. That's a pattern. And I have 4 cameras on Traders Road. I could pull my phone out and show you right now. But right now on Traders Road, a lot of activity and a lot of noise. And so single family might be somebody's pipe dream, but guess what? You're not going to buy a house backed up to a major road. I own one of those in Frisco, and we had to sell it for $50,000 less because of the fact that it was backed up to a major road in Frisco. So I think Bud's idea, you know, to do this, I think this is a good alternative. He can get to work on it. He can start making something happen. My family and other families can come along and we can add to it, and we'll build that up out there and we can make that look real nice. And I think Bud's a good man, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in favor of it?
I'm James Satterwhite. I live at 3819 Stonewall. And I agree with the last 2 speakers. We should have more development in Greenville. My son came here from Iowa. It is hard to find a place for him to live. And you're thinking, oh yeah, we've got Hunt-Tex properties. Yeah, that's United Housing on steroids. And I've looked at a lot of the stuff on it, and there's just not a whole lot of rental properties available in Greenville. I suggest that the council approve this measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in favor of it? Anyone wish to speak against? All right, this time I will close the public hearing, and at 6:56 we will stop and go into executive session.
We live in a world of technology. We're always connected. Everything is based on technology. What do you do when your technology breaks down? You call Digital Solutions. Located on Wesley Street in Greenville, Digital Solutions Technology Partners is there to get you fixed up. From business support to home computer repair, Digital Solutions Technology Partners will get your tech issues resolved. Visit us online at www.techresolve.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/DSTPI. You can call our office at 903-259-6418.